My grandma's caregiver isolated her and stole her identity to open 23 credit cards. I'm private investigator who caught her. My 82-year-old grandmother, Rose's hired caregiver Monica, isolated her from family, stole her identity, and used grandma's personal information to open 23 credit cards, take out 4 loans, and rack up over $300,000 in fraudulent charges. Monica had worked for grandma for only 9 months, but in that time, she'd systematically gathered every piece of grandma's personal information: social security number, birth certificate, bank account numbers, passwords. She'd intercepted grandma's mail to hide the credit card statements and collection notices. She'd convinced grandma that her family was too busy to visit and that Monica was the only person who truly cared about her. She'd created complete isolation, so grandma had no one to turn to when strange financial things started happening. When collection agencies began calling grandma about debts she didn't recognize, Monica told her it was identity theft by random criminals and that Monica would handle reporting it to authorities. In reality, Monica was the thief, and she had no intention of reporting anything. She was buying time to steal more before disappearing. Monica opened credit cards in grandma's name and used them to buy designer clothes, electronics, jewelry. She took luxury vacations charged to grandma's credit. She even bought a car using a loan in grandma's name. She lived a lavish lifestyle funded entirely by identity theft, while grandma's credit score plummeted and collection agencies threatened legal action. But I am Detective James Wilson, 49 years old, a private investigator specializing in financial crimes and identity theft with 26 years of experience. When my family finally discovered what was happening and hired me to investigate, I used surveillance, financial forensics, and digital tracking to document every crime Monica committed. I built an unbeatable case that sent her to prison for 19 years and recovered nearly all of the stolen money. This is the story of how a trusted caregiver stole my grandmother's entire identity and destroyed her finances, and how I used private investigation techniques to catch her, expose her elaborate fraud scheme, and get complete justice. My grandmother, Rose Wilson, was 82 years old in 2022 and living independently in Phoenix, Arizona. She'd been widowed in 2019 when my grandfather passed away. She had some mobility issues from arthritis and had difficulty with stairs. In March 2022, our family decided to hire a part-time caregiver to help grandma with daily tasks: shopping, meal preparation, light housekeeping, medication reminders. We wanted someone trustworthy who could be with grandma several days a week. We hired through a supposedly reputable home care agency called Caring Hearts Home Health. They sent us Monica Ramirez, age 38, who had stellar references and a clean background check. Monica seemed perfect. She was friendly, professional, attentive. Grandma liked her immediately. What none of us knew was that Monica was a professional identity thief who'd been doing this for years. She targeted elderly clients specifically because they're vulnerable and often don't notice financial irregularities quickly. She'd worked for at least 6 other elderly clients before grandma and had stolen from every single one of them. She'd never been caught because she was sophisticated about her methods, and she'd always disappeared before victims realized the extent of the theft. Monica's strategy was methodical. During her first month with grandma, she focused on building trust and gathering information. She was the perfect caregiver, always punctual, always helpful, always kind. She'd spend hours chatting with grandma about her life and her family. She'd ask seemingly innocent questions. What's your mother's maiden name? Grandma Rose. Where were you born? What was your first pet's name? These are common security questions for financial accounts, and Monica was collecting the answers. She'd offer to help grandma organize her paperwork. Do you want me to file these documents for you? Let me help you sort your mail. She was photographing every document that had personal information: bank statements, tax returns, insurance cards, medical records. She built a complete dossier of grandma's identity. In month 2, Monica began the isolation process. She'd tell Grandma that she'd called family members to arrange visits, but they were all too busy. Your granddaughter said she can't come this weekend. She has work. Your son said he's traveling for business. Monica never actually called anyone. She was creating the impression that family didn't care. She'd intercept calls by taking Grandma's phone, claiming she'd charge it or update it. Then she'd decline incoming calls and delete the call logs. Family members would call and wonder why Grandma wasn't answering. We'd try visiting, and Monica would say Grandma was sleeping or having a bad day and couldn't have visitors. She controlled all access to Grandma. By month 3, Monica had everything she needed to start stealing. She applied for credit cards online using Grandma's information. She'd have the cards sent to a P.O. box she'd rented. She opened 23 different credit cards from various banks: Discover, Capital One, Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, American Express. She maxed out each card immediately. She'd buy expensive items and either keep them or sell them for cash. Designer handbags, high-end electronics, jewelry. She charged luxury hotel stays, first-class flights, expensive restaurant meals. She bought a $35,000 car using an auto loan in Grandma's name. She lived like a millionaire using identity theft. The credit card statements and loan documents were all sent to Monica's P.O. box, so Grandma never saw them. But collection calls started coming to Grandma's house phone when payments weren't made. Monica would answer the phone and tell collectors it was a wrong number or hang up. When Grandma asked about the calls, Monica said it was telemarketers or scammers. Nothing to worry about. In month 5, a few statements slipped through and arrived at Grandma's house. Grandma opened them and was confused. "These are credit cards I've never heard of. Why am I getting statements?" Monica's response was immediate. "Oh, Grandma, this is identity theft. Criminals must have stolen your information. Don't worry, I'll handle reporting this to the police and the credit bureaus. You don't need to stress about it." Grandma trusted Monica completely and let her handle it. Of course, Monica never reported anything. She just hid the statements and continued stealing. By month 9, Monica had racked up over $300,000 in fraudulent charges and loans. Grandma's credit score had dropped from 750 to 480. She had accounts in collections. She had judgments filed against her. She was receiving threatening legal notices about defaulted debts. Monica was hiding all of this from Grandma and from our family. She thought she could continue indefinitely. Her plan was to max out every possible credit source and then disappear. She'd done this successfully with previous victims. She'd steal everything possible, then quit abruptly and move to another state. By the time victims realized the full extent of theft, she'd be long gone with a new identity. What Monica didn't plan for was my cousin Sarah showing up at Grandma's house unexpectedly. In December 2022, Sarah lived in California but was in Phoenix for work. She decided to surprise Grandma with a visit. Monica tried to turn her away, saying Grandma was resting. Sarah pushed past her and found Grandma sitting in her living room, surrounded by bills and collection notices, looking terrified and confused. Sarah sat down with Grandma and started going through the papers. She found statements for credit cards Grandma had never opened, loan documents for debts Grandma had never incurred, collection notices threatening legal action. Grandma was crying, saying she didn't understand what was happening, that Monica said it was identity theft, but it kept getting worse. Sarah called the family immediately. We all converged on Phoenix the next day. My father, who is Grandma's son, my siblings, my cousins. We sat with Grandma and went through everything. We found the full scope of the fraud. 23 credit cards all maxed out. 4 personal loans totaling $150,000. An auto loan for $35,000, total fraudulent debt of $327,000, all in Grandma's name, all accounts she'd never opened or authorized. When we confronted Monica, she denied everything. She acted shocked and concerned, claimed she'd been trying to help Grandma deal with identity theft, but something about her demeanor felt wrong. She was too calm, too prepared with answers. My investigator instincts kicked in, and I knew she was lying. I told the family I'd handle the investigation. I'm a licensed private investigator in Arizona with my own firm. I specialize in financial crimes, fraud investigations, and surveillance. I've worked with law enforcement on hundreds of cases. I knew exactly how to investigate this. I told Monica she was suspended from working for Grandma, effective immediately. She protested, saying Grandma needed her care. I told her we'd found alternative care and she needed to leave. She left reluctantly, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She knew her scheme was unraveling. I started investigating that same day. First, I pulled Grandma's credit reports from all 3 bureaus. The reports showed 23 open credit card accounts, 7 closed accounts that had been charged off, 4 personal loans, 1 auto loan, multiple collections accounts, dozens of hard inquiries from credit applications. Grandma's credit was destroyed. I documented every fraudulent account with dates opened, amounts charged, current balances. I created a complete financial timeline. Every account had been opened after Monica started working for Grandma. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. I pulled the application information for each fraudulent account. Credit card companies keep records of how accounts were opened. I found that all 23 credit cards had been opened online. The applications all used the same IP address. The applications all listed the same PO box for statement delivery. The applications all had the same phone number for contact. I traced the IP address to Monica's apartment. I found that the PO box was rented by Monica. The phone number was Monica's cell phone. Every application had Monica's digital fingerprints all over it. I obtained surveillance footage from the post office showing Monica picking up mail from the PO box repeatedly. The footage showed her collecting stacks of envelopes, credit card statements, and bills. I documented dozens of instances of Monica collecting Grandma's fraudulent mail. This was proof she was intercepting financial documents. I interviewed Grandma extensively. I asked her detailed questions about Monica's behavior. Grandma told me Monica had been wonderful initially, but had become increasingly controlling. Monica would take Grandma's phone, claiming she'd fix it, but then Grandma wouldn't get her calls. Monica would tell Grandma that family members were too busy to visit. Monica had convinced Grandma to give her passwords to her computer and accounts claiming it was for helping manage things. Grandma had trusted Monica with everything. I realized Monica had used that access to steal every piece of personal information needed for identity theft. I pulled Monica's employment history from the home care agency. They'd sent her to 6 other clients before Grandma, all elderly women living alone. I contacted each former client. What I discovered was shocking. 5 of the 6 women had experienced identity theft while Monica worked for them. One woman had 17 fraudulent credit cards opened. Another had $80,000 stolen. Another had her savings account drained. Each woman had reported the theft to police, but Monica had quit and disappeared before investigations went anywhere. No one had connected Monica to the crimes because she was so careful. She'd used different PO boxes, different patterns. She'd worked for a different agency each time, so there was no paper trail connecting the cases. Monica was a serial identity thief who'd stolen from at least 6 elderly women and gotten away with it every time until now. I installed surveillance equipment around Grandma's house, hidden cameras covering the front door, driveway, mailbox. I wanted to see if Monica came back. Sure enough, 3 days into surveillance, Monica drove by the house multiple times, clearly casing it. On the 4th day, she approached Grandma's mailbox at 11 p.m. when she thought no one would see. My cameras caught her opening the mailbox and taking mail. She was still trying to intercept Grandma's statements, even after being fired. I had her on video committing mail theft, which is a federal crime. I called Phoenix PD and provided them with everything I'd found. The credit reports showing fraudulent accounts, the application records showing Monica's IP address and PO box, the surveillance footage of her collecting fraudulent mail, the interviews with previous victims, the video of her stealing mail from Grandma's mailbox. I provided a complete investigation package that proved beyond doubt Monica had committed systematic identity theft. Detective Lisa Chen Chen from the Financial Crimes Unit was assigned to the case. She reviewed my evidence and immediately agreed this was prosecutable. She obtained search warrants for Monica's apartment, car, and storage unit. The searches revealed the evidence we needed to guarantee conviction. In Monica's apartment, police found a sophisticated identity theft operation. She had a dedicated computer with spreadsheets tracking her various fraudulent accounts. She'd kept detailed records of every credit card she'd opened using stolen identities. She had folders organized by victim name containing all their personal information. Grandma's folder had copies of her social security card, birth certificate, bank statements, passwords written down, everything needed to impersonate her. Police found the designer clothes and electronics Monica had purchased with fraudulent cards. They found jewelry worth over $50,000. They found receipts for the car she'd bought with the auto loan in Grandma's name. She'd been stupid enough to keep evidence of her crimes. In her storage unit, police found items stolen from all 6 previous victims. She'd kept documentation of her entire criminal enterprise. It was like she was proud of what she'd done. Monica was arrested in January 2023. She was charged with 23 counts of identity theft, 23 counts of credit card fraud, 4 counts of loan fraud, 15 counts of mail theft, conspiracy, elder abuse, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. She was facing over 50 felony counts. The charges carried potential sentences totaling over 80 years in prison. Monica's trial began in June 2023. The prosecution presented devastating evidence: the credit report showing fraudulent accounts, the application records with Monica's IP address, the surveillance footage of her collecting mail from the P.O. box and stealing mail from Grandma's mailbox, the spreadsheets from her computer documenting her fraud operation, testimony from Grandma about how Monica had isolated her and stolen her personal information, testimony from 5 other elderly victims describing identical patterns, testimony from digital forensics experts proving Monica had opened the accounts, testimony from financial institutions about the fraud. I testified as both Grandma's grandson and as the private investigator who'd built the case. I walked the jury through my entire investigation. I showed them the timeline proving Monica had opened all fraudulent accounts while working for Grandma. I showed them the surveillance footage. I explained how Monica's isolation tactics enabled her to steal without detection. I presented the evidence from previous victims proving this was Monica's established criminal pattern. My testimony took 8 hours over 2 days. By the end, the jury understood completely that Monica was a professional identity thief who'd targeted vulnerable elderly women repeatedly. The defense tried to claim someone else must have stolen Grandma's information and that Monica was being framed. This defense collapsed under the weight of evidence. How could someone else have used Monica's IP address from her apartment? How could someone else have rented a P.O. box in Monica's name? How could someone else have been captured on surveillance at that P.O. box? How could someone else have created spreadsheets on Monica's computer tracking the fraud? The defense had no answers. Monica took the stand and claimed she was innocent. She said she'd tried to help Grandma with the identity theft. Under cross-examination, the prosecutor destroyed her. If you were helping, why did you intercept mail? Why did you have Grandma's personal documents in your possession? Why were the credit card applications made from your IP address? Why did you have spreadsheets tracking fraudulent accounts? Monica had no credible answers. She broke down and admitted she'd made mistakes, but claimed she'd never intended to hurt anyone. The jury didn't believe a word. The prosecution also presented evidence of Monica's previous identity theft conviction from 2015 in Nevada. She'd served 2 years in prison for stealing from an elderly man. She was a repeat offender who'd never stopped targeting vulnerable elderly people. This prior conviction destroyed any sympathy the jury might have had. The jury deliberated 6 hours. They found Monica guilty on all 53 felony counts. Her face showed no emotion when the verdicts were read. She seemed seemed resigned to her fate. She'd known the evidence was overwhelming. Sentencing was in August 2023. The judge was harsh. Miss Ramirez, you are a predator who specifically targets the most vulnerable members of our society. Elderly people who trust caregivers to help them. You systematically stole from at least 7 elderly women, including Mrs. Wilson. You stole over $300,000 from Mrs. Wilson alone. You destroyed her credit and caused her severe emotional distress. You isolated her from family to enable your crimes. You've done this repeatedly, despite a prior conviction. You show no genuine remorse. You are extremely dangerous, and society needs protection from you. I am sentencing you to 19 years in state prison with no possibility of parole for 16 years. You will pay full restitution of $327,000 to Mrs. Wilson and additional restitution to your other victims. You are permanently banned from working in any caregiving or fiduciary capacity, and you will register as an identity thief. What you did was systematic predatory theft, and you will pay dearly for it. 19 years. Monica was 38. She'd be 57 at minimum before parole consideration. She'd spent 9 months stealing from Grandma, and she'd spend 19 years paying for it. The criminal conviction meant all the fraudulent debts were proven to be fraud. Grandma was not responsible for any of them. I worked with the credit card companies and banks to reverse all charges, to close all fraudulent accounts, to remove all negative information from Grandma's credit reports. It took months of paperwork and disputes, but eventually Grandma's credit was restored. Her score went back up to 735. All collections were removed. All judgments were vacated. Financially, Grandma recovered completely. Monica's seized assets were sold, and the proceeds went toward restitution. She'd spent most of the stolen money, but about $80,000 was recovered from selling her luxury items. The rest will be garnished from any future earnings, though she'll likely never pay it all. The emotional recovery took longer. Grandma was traumatized by the betrayal. She'd trusted Monica completely, and Monica had exploited that trust to commit crimes. Grandma felt foolish for not recognizing what was happening. I reminded her that Monica was a professional criminal who'd fooled many people. Grandma had been targeted by someone skilled at deception. It wasn't her fault. Grandma went to therapy to process the trauma. Over time, she regained her confidence. She became more cautious about who she trusts, but she didn't become paranoid. She's still able to form relationships and accept help when needed. We hired a new caregiver through a different agency with extensive background checks and references we personally verified. Grandma's new caregiver has been wonderful and trustworthy. Grandma is now 85 and doing well. She's recovered from Monica's crimes and is living happily. Monica is currently incarcerated at Arizona State Prison Complex, serving year 2 of her minimum 16-year sentence. She's written letters to some of her victims, including Grandma, asking for forgiveness. Every letter has been returned unopened. There is no forgiveness for systematically stealing from vulnerable elderly people. Monica made calculated choices to target people who trusted her. She did this repeatedly over years. She showed no remorse until caught. She deserves every year of that 19-year sentence. Her criminal record means when she's released, she'll be a registered identity thief and convicted elder abuser. She'll never be able to work in caregiving, healthcare, finance, or any position involving trust. She'll be a 57-year-old felon with no prospects. She destroyed her life to steal money she never got to keep. I've used this case in presentations I give to senior centers and community groups about protecting elderly people from identity theft and caregiver fraud. I explain the warning signs Monica exhibited, how isolation is often the first step in elder financial abuse, how caregivers can use their access to steal personal information, how to properly vet caregivers and monitor for suspicious behavior. I want other families to recognize these patterns before their loved ones are victimized. If Grandma's experience can help protect even one other elderly person, then something positive came from it. I've also worked with the Arizona Department of Health Services to establish stronger screening requirements for home care agencies. Caring Heart clients. The agency that placed Monica lost their license because they'd failed to properly screen her despite her prior conviction. The new regulations require more thorough background checks, reference verification, and ongoing monitoring of caregivers. These protections will make it harder for predators like Monica to access vulnerable clients. Some people have asked why I pursued such aggressive prosecution when Grandma recovered financially. Those people don't understand that this wasn't just about money. Monica psychologically tortured Grandma by making her believe she was being victimized by random criminals, when Monica was the actual criminal. Monica isolated Grandma from family, causing her to feel abandoned. Monica destroyed Grandma's credit and financial reputation. Monica violated the sacred trust that exists between caregiver and client. These crimes caused severe emotional harm beyond the financial theft. Monica deserved 19 years and more for what she did. The fact that Grandma recovered financially doesn't diminish the severity of Monica's crimes. I have no sympathy for Monica. She'd been convicted before and chose to continue victimizing elderly people. She specifically sought out vulnerable clients to exploit. She was a professional predator. Every choice was deliberate and calculated. She showed no remorse until facing consequences. She deserves every consequence. Grandma tells everyone I saved her from financial ruin. She says having a private investigator grandson meant Monica picked the wrong victim. If I hadn't known how to investigate financial crimes and build a prosecution case, Monica might have disappeared before we could hold her accountable. Grandma credits me with getting justice and recovering her finances and her peace of mind. I tell her I was just using my professional skills to protect someone I love, but knowing I could help her means everything to me. This is my story. I'm James Wilson, 49 years old, private investigator specializing in financial crimes with 26 years of experience. My grandmother Rose's caregiver, Monica Ramirez, systematically stole her identity over 9 months, opened 23 credit cards, took out 4 loans, racked up $327,000 in fraudulent charges, isolated Grandma from family to enable the theft. I investigated using surveillance, financial forensics, and digital tracking. I found that Monica was a serial identity thief who'd victimized at least 7 elderly women. I built a comprehensive case that resulted in Monica's conviction on 53 felony counts and a 19-year prison sentence. Grandma recovered financially and emotionally. Monica is serving year 2, knowing she destroyed her life by stealing from a private investigator's grandmother. She chose the worst possible victim and paid the ultimate price. Justice for Grandma Rose was served completely.